Happy April. I still can't believe it's April already. I feel like it's flying by so quickly. I hope that this new month brings growth, energy, and opportunity to each and every one of you all in our city.
The vice mayor just always had a smile. I mean, she'd come into a room and it'd be lighter.
She sent a text at 8 in the morning, a normal text, a work text, a list of discussion items for a meeting she was supposed to chair that same day. That was the last anyone heard from Nancy Metayer Bowen. By 10 a.m., her colleagues were worried. By noon, there was a missing persons investigation. And by that afternoon, a SWAT team was forcing entry into her home. What they found upstairs, in the master bedroom, was Nancy, wrapped in blankets, sealed in garbage bags, placed in her own bed. She had been shot 3 times with a shotgun the night before. And the man police were looking for? He had already left the house, already contacted his family, already tried to hand off the weapon. And when they asked him why, he said 4 words. "I couldn't take it anymore." That sentence, 4 words, that's all investigators got. And here we are, weeks later, and nobody can fully explain what those 4 words actually meant, because nobody saw this coming. Not her colleagues, not her closest friends, not her own family. And that is exactly what makes this case so deeply unsettling. If you've been following this case from the beginning, you already know how shocking the basics are. But what this video is really about, the part that most coverage has danced around, is the why. What was happening inside that marriage that no one around them knew about? Because here's the thing, her own mother-in-law told investigators she had no knowledge of any marital problems between them. 0. Nothing. And yet, someone inside that home fashioned a pillow into a makeshift silencer. That's not a crime of passion. That's not a spontaneous breakdown. That is planning. So before we go any further, drop a comment right now. Tell me, what part of this case hit you the hardest when you first heard it? Because for a lot of people, it wasn't the shotgun. It wasn't even the garbage bags. It was the silence after. The part where he texted her colleagues back, pretended he didn't know where she was, played the concerned husband while she was upstairs. Let me know in the comments. I'll be reading them. You already know who Nancy Metayer Bowen was publicly. First Black woman, first Haitian American, Coral Springs City Commission, vice mayor. But the part that matters for understanding this case isn't her title, it's her trajectory. She held a bachelor's degree from Florida A&M University and a master's in health science from Johns Hopkins. Before politics, she interned with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, former Senator Bill Nelson, and the Obama administration. This was not someone who stumbled into power. She built it, deliberately, methodically, over years. She was among 4 fellows from the Sant Law Community Leadership Development Program who went on to seek elected office. She founded her own nonprofit. She won her commission seat in 2020, won re-election in 2024, unopposed, was appointed vice mayor in 2025, and then came the next step. U.S. Representative Jared Moskowitz confirmed she had been preparing to announce a run for the 20th Congressional District. The announcement was scheduled for Thursday, April 2nd. Thursday, the day after her body was found. Think about that for a moment. The day she was supposed to stand up and announce she was running for Congress, her community was standing at vigils outside City Hall instead. And here's what makes all of that important to understand in the context of this marriage. Nancy was ascending, fast, nationally, visibly, and her husband, Stephen Bowen, a radiology technician 40 years old, was not. I'm not making that a judgment, but in any marriage where one partner is accelerating and the other isn't, there are pressures, quiet ones, the kind that don't show up in any police report until it's too late. On the surface, Stephen and Nancy looked like a solid couple. Nancy celebrated their 2nd wedding anniversary in a November 22, 2024 Instagram post in front of the Coral Springs City Seal. She wrote about love, growth, and building a beautiful life together. 2 years in, still posting anniversary photos at City Hall, still describing their future together. And Stephen? His Instagram had posts of him and Nancy, anniversary photos, couples content. His bio read, God, husband, armed. That word, armed, was how he chose to introduce himself to the world. And his other posts weren't about community work or advocacy. They were videos of him at a shooting range, targeting practice. Now, that alone means nothing. Plenty of people post range content, but the contrast between who Nancy was presenting herself as and who Stephen was presenting himself as, it's a window into two very different worlds operating inside the same marriage. And here's the detail that has stayed with a lot of people. Nobody who knew the couple had any idea. A state representative who sat with them at multiple events told the Miami Herald, "I never had a clue that something like that would have happened. Not one red flag, not one public incident, not one report. So what was actually happening inside that house? Real quick, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button right now. I cover cases like this, the ones where the story is deeper than the headline, where the details in the police affidavit tell you more than any press conference ever will. New video drops tonight. You don't want to miss it." Now back to the night of March 31st. This is where the timeline gets very specific and very dark. Tuesday, March 31st, sometime that afternoon, Stephen Bowen called his mother. But he told her he was having a panic attack at work and that he was going to speak with his wife about it when he got home. His mother, later interviewed by police, said she had no knowledge of any marital problems between them. He told her he was having a panic attack. That's it. That's all she knew. That phone call was the last normal thing about that night, because at some point after he got home, after that conversation about a panic attack, after whatever discussion they had, Stephen Bowen picked up a shotgun. He shot Nancy 3 times. Then he fashioned a pillow with burn marks and string as if it were a makeshift silencer. He wrapped her body in blankets and placed it inside black garbage bags in the upstairs bedroom. And then he went downstairs and slept in the same house with her body upstairs. Let that register for a second. This wasn't a man in a state of shock who didn't know what to do. This wasn't a collapse. This was a man who, after what prosecutors are calling a premeditated act, lay down and went to sleep. The next morning, he left the house without making any calls to police, without calling an ambulance, without calling anyone in her family. He just left. Here's where the cover story starts unraveling in real time. Nancy had texted a city official at 8 a.m. Wednesday with a list of discussion items, but after that, silence. She never responded to follow-up calls. She missed her meetings. Her colleagues panicked. They started texting Stephen. When a city staffer reached out to him, Stephen replied that Nancy was not picking up, and then added, "Where is she? Her car is not at home." He was telling the people trying to find his wife that he didn't know where she was, while she was upstairs. Police were asked to conduct a wellness check. When they arrived, they saw no cars in the driveway and got no response. Stephen Bowen wasn't answering his phone either. A detective who surveyed the outside of the home found outward, explosive-like damage on the second floor, consistent with force originating from within the structure. That's what a shotgun does to a wall from the inside. The damage was visible from the street, and Stephen Bowen had already left. Meanwhile, Stephen had already gone to his uncle's home. He told his uncle he had done something to his wife, and that she was not alive. And when his uncle pressed him, when he finally said it out loud, Stephen told him he had shot Nancy 3 times with a shotgun the night before, and then slept downstairs. His uncle asked why. Stephen Bowen said he couldn't take it anymore. That's it. That's all he said. Pause for a second, because that phrase, "I couldn't take it anymore," is doing a lot of work in this case. What couldn't he take anymore? Her success? Her independence? A conversation they had that night? A decision she'd made? We don't know. Investigators haven't publicly named a specific motive, but that phrase is the closest thing to one that exists. What do you think he meant? Drop your theory in the comments, because this is the question the entire case hinges on, and I want to know what you think. After telling his uncle what he did, Stephen didn't turn himself in. He kept moving. He told his uncle he was going to meet an attorney in 40 minutes, but then left on his own before his uncle could take him. Police tracked his vehicle through license plate readers. Investigators found him at the Landmark Towers apartment complex in Plantation, about 12 miles south of Coral Springs. And this is where it gets strange. The man he was meeting was a fellow Freemason. Bowen had requested the meeting, telling the man they needed to discuss an upcoming lodge meeting. But what investigators say actually happened at that meeting? Stephen Bowen removed the tag from his truck and tried to get his Freemason contact to take a bag, a gun bag, and ammo boxes. He was trying to pass off the weapon. But he wasn't seeking legal help. He wasn't turning himself in. He was disposing of evidence, using his fraternal connections to do it. By 2:35 p.m. Wednesday, police had him in custody. He invoked his right to an attorney and said nothing more. The next day, Thursday, the day Nancy was supposed to announce her congressional campaign, Stephen Bowen stood before a judge who denied him bond and found probable cause on charges of premeditated murder and tampering with or fabricating physical evidence. He said nothing to detectives. Here's what's important to understand about where this case stands. The affidavit lays out what happened. It does not lay out why with any specificity. Authorities have not publicly identified a motive. There is no apparent paper trail documenting any prior domestic violence. Stephen Bowen does not have a violent criminal history. Those who knew the couple told the Miami Herald there were no glaring red flags. And yet, the SWAT team found a pillow with burn marks fashioned into a silencer. That takes forethought. That takes preparation. That is not the act of someone who just snapped. Premeditated murder is the charge. And investigators used that word, premeditated, before they had even completed processing the scene. So either something had been building inside that marriage for a long time, or something happened on the night of March 31st that crossed a line Stephen Bowen had drawn privately, in his own mind, long before that night. One friend of Nancy's, reflecting on the case, said it made her look at her own relationships differently. A relative of hers, she said, that was in a marriage with someone physically abusive for years, and no one knew until he put her in the hospital. That's the reality of domestic violence in marriages that look functional from the outside. The danger isn't always visible. Sometimes it's completely invisible, right up until the moment it isn't. And this is the part that matters most if you want to understand the weight of what was lost. Thursday, April 2nd, the day of Stephen's first court appearance, was also supposed to be the day Nancy announced she was running for the 20th Congressional District. Her friend Alfredo Olvera, who has known her for nearly a decade, said she was so excited about the support she was getting from local leaders, from elected officials, from family and friends. She was going to fight in Congress for gun control, for the environment, or for women's reproductive rights, for mental health, causes her own family had lived through. And here's the other piece of that. In December 2025, just weeks before her murder, Nancy's younger brother Donovan, a survivor of the 2018 Parkland shooting, died by suicide after years battling schizophrenia. She had just buried her brother. Representative Jared Moskowitz, who had just seen her the Saturday before her death, wrote publicly, "I'm in shock. I was just with her on Saturday. She just buried her brother. She was about to announce she was running for Congress." She was grieving. She was on the edge of the most significant professional announcement of her life. She had just lost her brother to the very mental health crisis she was prepared to fight against in Congress. And at home, behind closed doors, something was wrong enough that her husband said he couldn't take it anymore. What exactly was happening in that house? The motive hasn't been made public. The trial hasn't happened yet, and Stephen Bowen hasn't spoken publicly since invoking his right to an attorney. As of now, this is still unfolding. The Broward County Public Defender's Office has filed to withdraw from representing Stephen Bowen. The reason? Multiple members of their office had personal and professional relationships with Nancy Metayer Bowen. The court found that their involvement would violate Bowen's right to effective counsel. Court documents also revealed that Bowen cannot afford private legal representation. With the Public Defender's Office stepping back, the question of who will represent him remains unanswered. He sits in Broward County's main jail, without bond, without a clear defense attorney, and without, publicly at least, a stated motive beyond 4 words. The trial is ahead. The full picture is not yet available, but what investigators have already pieced together is enough to understand that this did not happen without warning signs that were simply never visible to anyone outside that marriage. There's a pattern in cases like this that is deeply uncomfortable to sit with. Gepsy Metellus, who ran the Sant Law Leadership Program that selected Nancy as a fellow, said, "She was working hard, doing good work, and we never imagined that she was living in this personal hell." Personal hell. Not arguments, not tension, hell, and no one saw it. That's the thing about the most dangerous domestic situations. They are often the ones that are most successfully hidden. The more publicly functional a marriage looks, the more effectively it can conceal what's happening inside.
So I want to say thank you all for having us on this panel. I feel very blessed to be on a panel with such amazing women. And so being visible on purpose for me means being a great role model and representing our community in the best light. And so as someone who holds the title that I hold, being the first Haitian American, first Black woman in that seat, I want to make sure that little Black and brown girls feel that they can aspire to be me one day. So what I try to do very often is create opportunities for these individuals to shadow me, to intern with me, and also share my story on social media, be as relatable as possible so individuals feel like this goal is attainable.
Stephen Bowen told his uncle he couldn't take it anymore. His mother told police she didn't know of any marital problems, and everyone who sat with them at events, ate dinner with them, watched them post anniversary photos, said they never had a clue. So what broke this marriage? Was it Nancy's rise? Her independence? A decision she made, or told him she was making, that night? Was it grief, pressure, resentment that had been building for years behind a door no one was allowed to open? Or was it something that happened on the night of March 31st? A conversation, a revelation, something we may never hear from Stephen Bowen's own mouth. The charge is premeditated murder. The silencer on the pillow was premeditated. The garbage bags were premeditated. The text to her colleagues, "Where is she? Her car's not home," was premeditated. The only thing that wasn't prepared, it seems, was an answer. Because I couldn't take it anymore is not a motive. It's a sentence that ends a story, without ever explaining how the story broke.